Meringue is a really fun thing to play with.
Today I'm going to make a fantastic little meringue cookie. A beautiful, crisp little gem. Folks, meringue cookies are cool, and if you haven't ever done one, you need to try this recipe. It's really a lot of fun. All right? And it is very simple with very few ingredients and kind of rewarding in the end. They're fun to make. The style of cookie I'm going to make today is going to be a sultan. This is a piped cookie, and so this is your big chance if you've ever wanted to try doing a piped cookie. You can do many different shapes. This recipe works with a lot of stuff. So that's the neat thing about a meringue cookie is you can kind of shape it however you want. It comes out that way. And the neat thing, they're just light as air. Light. Very, very light. The ones I'm going to make today are going to be thin little wafers. I want them nice and crisp. And you can make them thicker and they'll be a little bit marshmallowy in the center, still crisp on the outside. So this is a meringue sultan is what we're going to make. Before I jump in the kitchen, I do want to mention to you that when I was making this recipe, I ran into a roadblock. Sometimes before I do one of these videos, I decide, okay, I'm going to make this recipe and see if I can turn it into something unique. Give it my flavor, my kick, and my twist or whatever. And so I had picked out the flavor I wanted to use and decided to make my meringue. I made a beautiful meringue. It fluffed up lovely. It was nice and sweet. And all I had to do was just give it some color and some flavor. And I did both at once, and it turned into a custard. No, not cool. Your meringue isn't supposed to be a custard. It's supposed to be light, fluffy, with stiff peaks, so you can shape it into anything you want to shape it into. No, it didn't come out right. So I decided, okay, something's wrong because I did this recipe right. I know how to make a meringue. So I started looking at the labels. And sure enough, be careful which extract you use. The extract that I used was all oil. A lot of extracts, when you buy them, you look on the label, the first thing that you see is alcohol. And that's on purpose. The alcohol acts as a carrier and a solvent to what comes or to the flavor itself, which generally comes in the form of an oil, like lemon oil, orange oil, lime oil, whatever. It's taken from that peel of that item. Some things aren't quite so oily, like vanilla. Other things are more. And I wanted a meringue cookie with a nice citrusy flavor to it. Cool, huh? After all, I'm already putting acid in it that makes it good and crisp. Might as well take advantage of that. So I decided to do that. So make sure when you're looking for your extracts, find one that starts with alcohol and then whatever oil that flavor you want. Pick your flavor out and then make your meringues that way. You can make the meringue any color that you want to make it. You can do red, green, yellow, blue, whatever, and you can even do striped meringues, just depending on the way you pipe it. Okay, so we're going to get in the kitchen. We're going to do a basic meringue wafer. They're going to be fun to make, and there's some really cool lessons that come along with this one. Come on. The ingredients that we're going to be using today, this is a very, very simple recipe. I've got some eggs here. I've got cream of tartar. I've got some sugar. I've got some extract, and I've got some food coloring, and that's it. These provide all of the structure and substance. This makes it crispy on the outside. You know what the sugar does, gives it its sweetness, and then an extract that gives it the flavor you want it to have. Today we're going to be, I think I'll use a lime extract, and that's my choice. Now the thing of it is I want to forewarn you, some extracts like this one are only oil. If it starts with alcohol and then you see like lime oil and then water or whatever, then you've got one that's going to probably work out. But if it's like starts with just oil, like this one is soy oil or something like that, soybean oil and organic lemon oil, and big deal if it's organic, if it's all oil, it will not work on a meringue. It'll cause it to break. It caused the first one I did to turn into a custard, and I was like, what did that? And when I looked at my ingredients and I read that label, I immediately knew what caused my meringue to break. And I was like, oh, lovely. So I had to throw that whole batch away and then start a fresh batch in order to get a good recipe going for y'all. All right, now this is not a secret recipe. It's nothing new. Bakers have been using this recipe for years, and it varies to some degree. Some people use 4 eggs. Some people will use like 8 eggs to a half a teaspoon here or whatever. And so that recipe varies, but it's all basically the same thing, and it works the same way in the oven. And we'll get into that in a minute. So when we make a meringue, we don't use the whole egg. We separate that egg. And the way to do that, you know, I think the times I show this on video, it doesn't work. But generally, the old-fashioned way is you bust the egg in half, holding it vertically, you open it up, the white drains down. Then you pass that yolk to the second side, more of that white drains out. And when you pass it back, it's the end of it. So let's give that a try and see how we do. Okay, so got the yolk right there. Give him to the other side. The rest of the white runs down. We're done with it, all right? And I have a little bit of the shell over there, or that yolk. Like I said, it's never that perfect when I do it on camera. Okay. Oh dear. Very nice and clean though. It is time to get on with making a meringue. Now we're going to turn this tiny 3 egg yolks right here into a bowl full of cookie dough. It's just that simple. This is a fun thing to do. If you've never done a meringue, you're going to have a real good time with it. But I would like to caution you, any fat whatsoever, and the thing likes to fall, that we get away with a little bit of oil from an extract, we're lucky, all right, because a lot of times any fat will cause it to fall. If you have a mixer with your beater or the bowl that has been used for buttercream recently or making cakes or anything, wash it a second time. Make sure that as you're doing so that it's literally squeaky clean, because if there's fat in the bowl, any leftover stuff that you're not seeing, your meringues are going to fall and turn into a custard. So that's all I'll say about that. A medium speed, and I need to go ahead and get my cream of tartar down in there. And just gently. This is a recipe with a fast run speed. From the beginning, which is running it on medium speed like this, to get it to froth, to the higher speed we're going to use in a moment to cause it to turn into a tight foam. And that is what we're going for here. Now, once it turns into that, we're going to add in that sugar. Okay, we've got it on medium speed. You see that frothy condition starting to happen right there. Now, before I get cranking up on this just any more than I am, let me mention eggs. Why are they doing this? Well, we're working on a protein here. Now, proteins are sticky, all right? You know, that's the gluten in flour is a protein, and it's what causes flour paste or dough to be sticky, okay? And it's the same way with an egg white. It's a protein. When you whip a protein, it gets, first of all, it takes in air, and then that stretchy, sticky quality that's elastic allows it to form this bubbly state. Okay, so that's the whole thing, is that we're dealing with a protein. Let's crank it up. Now, this shouldn't take very long at all. Let's zoom in a little bit and take a closer look at that.
That's always cool to do. Now I can tell from the consistency. See how it's got this, like, it looks like a little cloud hanging on there. All right, let me pull this off. Come on, come off of there. Okay, it looks like a little cloud up in here. Kind of funky and lumpy and that kind of thing, and it's really not holding peaks very well. They just kind of flop over and act weird. So right now we are barely at a soft peak, okay, and this is not where we need to be. However, we're almost at the state we can start adding sugar, and that's what I'm going to be doing here next. So what I'm going to do is we're going to work in that sugar. Now here's the thing, is you can't put that sugar in very fast, folks, because it's going to throw it right back out at you. Now I want you to look closely at how I'm drizzling this in here. So just very, very gently allowing the grains to fall. See how I'm in no rush with this. It's just very gently entering. If I put too much in at once at this speed, it'll throw it out. So if you see any sugar granules being kicked out, then that means you are rushing this process just a little too much, okay? As with all things mixer, occasionally you're going to have to open it and you're going to have to scrape that bowl down, okay? Now a good stiff meringue is kind of important. You want fairly stiff peaks here. We get that sugar in at that stage, and that way it can dissolve well in that still fairly nice and wet environment. Now let's finish making it stiff. Coming up on 1 minute. I ran that for an additional 1 minute, okay? And I like to use a timer on stuff like that, and that way, you know, as you're developing your recipes, and this recipe varies per region, you know, how it's going to act. At different humidities and different altitudes and stuff, it acts different. Now, what we got there, let's see, we got some stiff peaks starting to form. It's starting to feel fairly firm down in here. Yeah, I like that marshmallowy feel that I get there. And then I get these nice little peaks that are standing up there. I can shake this, blah, 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 and it's still standing right up there, nice and pretty. Okay, that's stiff peaks, okay? So once you get your stiff peaks going on, we can then take it and flavor it and color it. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And again, we're going to do this on a medium speed, is where you add your ingredients when you're adding extras to a meringue. And it's just kind of the rules of the game, guys. Here we go. Alright, first thing I want is a little bit of this extract. I'm going to use a very small amount. Be conservative here. Remember, on this dish, a little goes a long ways, because that's mostly air. It doesn't take a lot to flavor air, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm going to scrape my bowl. We're going to add in some colorant. We are there. All I got to do is just get this colored, and it's ready to use for cookies. There we go. Roughly 1/4 teaspoon, or just a little less, of that powdered yellow goes a long way. I still got a little white meringue mixed in there, but that's not going to make any difference to these cookies. They're not going to mind that at all. I am going to help it out a little bit. There we go. This is ready to go in a piping bag, get put on our sheet. Now, something that you have to have done, that oven needs to already be preheated, 225 degrees. In a little bit, we're going to discuss things about that oven that matter, and when it comes to temperature. But right now, we got to get this onto our surfaces to bake. The cookie that we're making is called a sultan, and that's named after the tip. The tip is called a sultan tip. There are two kinds of sultan tips. They're identical in their basic shape, with the difference that One's center part sticks out further than the other one. Okay, that's the only difference. So one's higher off of the sheet than the other one. This one really should produce a thicker cookie, meringue cookie for you if you want, the one that's raised. Now, they're also, there's nothing in there, so they're filled with air, basically. Now, it causes a problem when you pull up on the sheet. It causes a suction action against that center cutout right there. And so keeping your sheet from pulling up while you're raising up after making your sultans is tricky, okay? Now you can anchor the corners with a little bit of this stuff, but it doesn't stop the stuff from still pulling up in the middle, so you have to kind of anchor it all over, and then it's just ridiculous. So I don't do it at all. I don't anchor the sheet. I use foil because it peels off of them easily. And I would like to mention, quickly, let's look right in here. You see the inside of that tip, how it has 3 chambers to it. If I wanted to use 3 colors of my meringue, I could fill red in one bag, blue and green or whatever in another bag, and then just slide them down inside of the primary bag. And this is after having cut the tip off. You only have to cut it up to about the 1/2 inch mark there, and then drop it right down inside of that. Once you get 3 in there, you're then piping 3 colors straight out of that tip, making tricolored cookies. So that gives you some real options when it comes to piping. You don't have to go out and buy a fancy contraption to get that effect. To use a piping bag, if you've never done it, roll it inside out. This is after you've put your tip in there and you've cut it. So there's one of ours ready to go, and we're going to get another one. So I'm in the kitchen. We're going to pretend there is no knife, or excuse me, there is no scissors around here, so we're going to have to use a knife. What I want to do is take my tip into a bag that has not been cut. I'm going to force it down just as far as I can get it in that bag, nice and tight, okay? Once I'm there, always keep a marker in the kitchen. There we go. I can mark my bag and then pull my tip back out. Once that has been extracted, I can then cut off that amount of the bag where my mark is. There we go. So here we have a bag set up for a sultan tip, just like so. And then put it in there and force it down deep. Okay, you want it nice and tight. There we are. So that way it doesn't come loose and you don't have any leaks. So there is the first and second piping bag ready to go. Now, if you've never done piping, you just had an education in how to do this, okay? There's the fabric piping bags that I absolutely love. And then there's these. These can be reused several times, but I like the feel, the tactile feel of the canvas bag in my hand better than this one. That's all there is to it. Now I'm using this one so you guys can see what's going on in there. All right, and that's the whole idea there. A lot of folks like to use a glass to make this little task easier, because they can then work their filling, whatever it is, whether it be a buttercream or like this, a meringue or whatever, they can get it in there a little bit easier this way. I don't do that. I don't think it is easier myself, and I want to show you my method and the method a lot of chefs use. Professional chefs aren't going to go and grab a glass and do this, okay? This is for folks that are learning, and if you're learning, do this. It's a great way. Let me show you something else. Pull this out of here, move it to the side. I want to get my hand under, just like this. And when I put this in here, I'm going to wipe it off on my thumb or on my finger to remove whatever material is on this. Just like so. And that is the way I will fill my piping bag each and every time. Okay? So this time I'm using my finger. Most of the time, frankly, I'll be honest with you, when I'm filling one of these, I'll use my thumb like that. And then once you get it up to that point, you need to kind of start packing it down in there, getting it into that tip if you can. Fill it up some more. Okay. Now I'm going to say this. Even though, you know, you always hear burp the bag when you're piping, and we're going to do that. But when you're working with a meringue, sometimes you get a bubble of air up inside the meringue. You can't help it. It just happens, people. So get ready for the possibility of that occurring. So here's what I do. Pull that bag up, just like so. Now once it's up, you can lay it on its side and work meringue towards the tip, only to the point that you just see it starting to appear. Then, holding it over the bowl so I don't drip, I will fold my bag over a couple of times, grab it in my finger, just like this, and give it a couple of twists. Boom, guess what? I'm ready to make sultans right there. Now it's nice to have a paper towel handy to wipe your tip if it gets kind of mucky, and it happens, okay? Just like so, all right? Now we're gonna do our sultans, and what I'm gonna do is this is the tip that's not extended, and I haven't used this one yet. I've used the other one, and I'm excited about this. The first time I do this, I'm gonna put it in contact with the sheet and squeeze until I get the shape of cookie I want, and then release. Now you see my cookie has come out smooth and not striped. Okay, so holding it against the sheet is not going to give me what I want. The other one that's extended, that's exactly the way you do it. Now let me hold it above the sheet. There we go. There was a double, and it's sealed in the middle. So let's go down a little lower and pull up. There we go. A nice hollow one there. So this one seems that if you come down just about 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch above your sheet, you should get a nice flat. Now I want to try something here. We're playing, we're experimenting, you're having fun. Go ahead and do that. Now I want to pump out some and then raise it and pump out some, raise it and pump out a little more and then pull. There's a triple. Ain't that cool? Aren't we having fun? This is ready for the oven. Here's the trick. Oven's got to be at 225 degrees. These cook for 1 hour and 30 minutes. When they're finished cooking, you don't take them out of the oven. You just turn the oven off. You turn it off and you go away. And a few hours later, when the oven is completely cooled down, it's cool to the touch, and you can reach in and touch the pan and there's no warmth to it, you can then pull the cookies out of the oven. That's usually a number of hours, depending on your oven. Our meringues are here, they're ready to go. I'm going to pipe out from the other bag a whole nother batch of meringue, and we're going to see what we get there. Folks, you know, when I have things that allow me to just explore and be creative and have a good time, and that's the thing about baking, then I do that. Okay, a little tiny amount of this here red. Okay, it's not going to take much, just a little. Meringue is starting to fall a little bit, so hopefully I can get some cookies out of this. Oh, there we go. And the thing of it is, I'm not going to go any further. I'm going to pipe it just like that. A little cleaning. This is the one that's got the extended tip, where you do that. However, I want to try without it. Okay, the meringues hit the oven. Yeehaw. Okay, 1 hour, 30 minutes, start. That's going to sound, when it does, all I have to do is turn the oven off. Do not remove them from the oven. Okay, this, in order for these things to come out right, to be crispy and to have the right texture and the right effect, they have to cool slowly, and that means cooling with the oven. That having been said, different ovens cool at different rates, and you're going to get different effects. So if you get a slightly different effect than mine, and you're using you're using an electric oven, well, I'm using gas. All right, and mine's going to be cool 3 hours after I turn it off. My cookies will be finished at that point and crispy. If yours is electric, it could take 4 or 5 hours to cool down, and at that point your cookies are ready. You don't have to leave them sitting in there overnight or anything crazy like that. Just let the oven come to room temperature first. At that point, your sultans are ready to do other things with, whether it be eating them or turning them into sandwich cookies and other neat things like that. It's up to you. You get to be creative here and have a good time with this. Meringue recipes, well, they're easy to do, they're short on ingredients, and they're a lot of fun. So now I'll have to wait. In a little while we're going to take a look at these, and I'll show you the end results. There's one other thing, and I just remembered it. The pan. You saw me use foil. Other people use paper. Some people, well, in fact, a lot of people use paper. I prefer the foil because it gives it a nice glossy back to the cookie. And it's a nice effect, and it also makes it easier if I want to pipe a filling in between two of them and make a sandwich cookie. They seem to hold up better. I did do an experiment where I piped directly onto a baking sheet to see how bad they would stick and if they would come free or not. They stuck badly, as I expected. However, I flexed the pan and all of the cookies popped free, and they were in whole condition. However, the bottoms of them were still stuck to the pan, so you could see the inner structure of the cookie, even though the whole cookie was basically still there. Foil works best. Just stick with that. I got a mess to clean up. Patience, and more patience. The quantity of all of our ingredients that we use today, very simple recipe, that was 3 eggs worth of whites. We don't use the yolk, as you've seen, and to that 1/4 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar, 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 of a teaspoon of extract of your choice. Make sure, though, that it isn't all oil. A little bit, without mostly alcohol, will work. And a food coloring, whatever color you want to use, or as you've seen with these tips, you can go multicolors and just have all kinds of fun with them. My oven finally cooled down. Now I can take these and very gently just peel them loose. And what I do is I just push the back of the foil with my fingers, and just kind of rolls loose from the... Now you see how this one's kind of shiny? If you're really gentle, you'll get them like that. Okay, so that's how you get those loose. This one that was kind of ugly, let's look inside of him. Look at that, how it just snapped open, and it's really crisp and really well structured. Flavor is excellent, sweet, it just melts in your mouth. Oh, that's excellent right there. Well, as you've just seen when I broke this one apart, they're really good. That lime flavor just explodes. It's sweet, crispy, light. And when you're eating it, you feel like you're not really getting anything, you know, like there's no calories, even though there is, but it's just so light and thin, and it's hard to describe, but it is, it's like eating crunchy air. It really is, it's so cool. Now, I had this other one, you know, we made this big one. There we go, break him open. Now I'm going to say this, it's just slightly soft on the inside, nothing spectacular. If you wanted one of these cookies, you'd make them, like I said, thicker, shorten that cooking time by about 20 minutes, and then suddenly you're going to have that soft center, okay? And that's all there is to it. So it's just, it's going to still have the outside crisp, and that's because of the acid that was in the recipe, and then the inside it will be nice and soft. But this is mostly crisp. It came out fine. But that's what I go for, is I like a crispy cookie, a nice wafer that you can take and put chocolate in between maybe, or a vanilla paste. All kinds of neat things that you could put inside of it that would really taste so good, even some jam. So it's up to you what you do with your neat little cookies. Me, I'm going to take mine and pass them out amongst the neighbors and have a few for myself. Thank you very much for watching this. Take a look, please, at my channel in the comments box down here. If you would drop some comments for me, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Also, description box, I have some links there. Texas Cooking Today, of course, you'll see my link to that. Also to my website, where recipes that I sell, the shirts, other things that I carry for also Texas Cooking Today. Take a look at that, and thank you very much for watching this. And folks, please enjoy your neat little meringues.